Oh, G-Wagon! What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Sorry I've been MIA a little. I've been slacking. It's alright. We back now. We back and better. Got a new hat. Hopefully it's not as shaky as the last few videos. You know, the original plan was to post like once a week, once a month. But right after I got the car, I didn't really have the money to do anything else, if I'm gonna be honest. And I was like, what's the point of making videos where there's no progress, there's no updates? So took a little break, stacked my bread little by little, and then now we're here. Today we're headed over to BM Coding to get the DME unlocked and start the first steps to go stage 2 on my 2020 X3 M40. Looking forward to it. But before that video comes, it's already the end of August, and that officially marks my 9th month with this car. So I wanted to make a quick video on my journey with the car, what I've used the car for, my likes and dislikes, and kind of do a 9-month review. While we're headed over, we got a solid 30 minutes and I finally got time to film, and I got the next few videos lined up. So I'm like, this is the perfect time to begin. And you know me, I can't remember anything. So we're reading off the list, top to bottom. Got a lot of things to say. So with that being said, let's get right into it. So I've put about 7,000 miles on the car, just under that. I got the car at 31,000 miles, and right now we're at like 37.7 or something, 37.8. So we're almost at that mark. Throughout my time with this car, I've mostly been using it for daily driving. I haven't really taken too many road trips. I do teach tennis on the side, so this car has been great for throwing in tennis equipment, rackets, just throwing it all in the trunk, not really thinking about it on how to organize it because everything fits anyway, and just going. I've used the car for a few road trips. I've had a good amount of people in here, a good amount of stuff, but that's like once every few months. So when I originally got this car, I was obviously thinking between this and the M340, and the biggest thing that I wanted to do was, 1, go snowboarding and bring all that equipment, and 2, lug around my tennis stuff. So in terms of buying an SUV for that purpose, it has fit me just fine. I've seriously no complaints with the vehicle and how it's been used in my day-to-day life. And aside from the occasional thought of wanting to be lower, have a little bit more torque, and be in a M340, this car has been great. I'm supposed to do a little walk around, but we're obviously driving already, so we'll do that part later. The next thing I wanted to talk about was, because I wanted to use it as a daily driver, the original goal for this car since the beginning was to do stage 2. Stage 2 puts about 500 horsepower, I think like 400 wheels, something like that, on 93 pump gas. I'm not looking to go on E. I feel like that's a little too much for this car, especially if like my parents take it out for a drive, or anyone else in my family, and they're just like, what the hell is this? I have a 200 cell catted downpipe on the way, but I would not do anything like a big turbo or straight piped exhaust. That's just way too much for me. There were a few scratches and things. I think the biggest thing that kind of annoyed me was the front grille. The previous owner had hit it on something, so there was a little chip. And then I went to go get the car detailed, and while they were trying to maybe fix the chip, they just ended up peeling the whole thing off. So there's like a little missing piece in the grille, and that's like, it's not too big, it's like a few millimeters wide, but since it is the front of the car, it's pretty noticeable. I would say I sit obviously in the driver's seats the most, and because I coach tennis, I go to the trunk the most too. And another thing with the trunk is that there's a few scratches all around the liner, the cover, and the back of the trunk too. And I figured that just has to be from stuff moving around and scratching it, but this is all from the previous owner. And my tint shop actually pointed it out and said you could maybe go back and they could fix it. But being this car is used, a lot of dealerships sell it as is, so there's not really anything we can do about that. As for the interior, there's really nothing wrong. All the other seats are obviously in better condition than the driver's seat. The driver's seat has a little bit more wear and tear. I got the car from Maryland, so I would like to think it's mostly highway miles, and the previous owner used this as a commuter car, but who knows. Last thing is this mirror cap, or both mirror caps, this cerium gray, has so many fingerprints and oil marks from the previous owner. I don't know if he was like just gripping the mirror, but it's so obvious. And even if I use water remover, like hard spot water remover, it still won't rub off. I've used the product on like the hood, the panels, and water spots come right off. The product's from Adams. Maybe I'll like drop a picture right here, but I tried to use it on the mirror cap and it just did not work. So if you guys have any tips on how to get rid of the fingerprints, let me know. But I might just also switch it out with a carbon fiber mirror cap or a carbon black one to paint match the car. Now, the immediate modifications after I got the car were tint, lowering springs, and Tuxmac floor mats. All three have been great. Tint, obviously, I'm pretty big on the safety aspect of tint, which is surprising. A lot of people they just want the car to look dark, but I got ceramic tints. That 80-90% UV IR protection has always been top of mind for me. Haven't done the windshield yet. Maybe down the road, maybe in like, I don't know, summer's almost ending, so maybe next fall, next spring, there's no need to tint in the winter, you know. Lowering springs, obviously great. I was on the stock 19-inch wheels, and those were really bumpy, especially with the stock suspension as well as the 19-inch run flat tires. Putting on the lowering springs has made the car aesthetically look better, handle better, and also taken away some of that bumpiness that you get from the run flats. And even though I still kept the run flats on the car, it changed the driving experience for me. I think if you're not too into cars, you honestly won't realize the difference too much. You will really have to sit there and think about it and notice it. But if you're coming from another car that has really soft suspension, I think you can kind of tell that the car will change a little bit closer to the softer side and the drive will be a little bit more comfortable. I think for the average Joe, you definitely wouldn't need it. These cars do come with adaptive suspension, but being 2020 is a COVID year car, not too many cars have that option. You can just tell by looking down right here, it should say adaptive. And another thing that's missing is like these parking sensors. Look for 3 buttons, 1, 2, 3. If you don't have those, then your car is a COVID year car. That's another big thing I wanted, 360 camera, the executive package. A lot of cars I look for across like 8 months, they did not have that. So obviously take your time when you're shopping for these cars, especially this year, 2020 and 21. I think it's really tough to actually find a car like this, close to being fully optioned. The only things I'm missing are, I think, the wheel package, the premium wheel package, and rear heated seats and adaptive suspension. I think aside from those three, the car is pretty spec'd out. Seats are pretty comfy, but I could see why somebody would say they're not for long distance road trips. I think especially the back seats, even if you tilt it a little bit more back, they are a little upright. and the leg space isn't the best. I'm 5'8". I like to sit not far back, but you know, my arm is straight. My legs at the bottom, if I were to reach behind the pedals, they're also straight. So sitting behind me isn't too much space. If I were to sit behind me, I think I would have like 3 to 4 inches of space. But obviously there are better cars than that, than just 3 to 4 inches, you know? And even my Accord, my 2017 Accord, my first car, I feel like the second row felt more comfortable because there was an extra inch or 2. So that might be like 4 to 5 inches versus this car is 3 to 4. So that's something to think about if you are consistently carrying around like bigger people. I would say if all the passengers are like 5'8", then it might get a little tight. But anything other than that, under that, I feel like you'll be fine. iDrive has been fine. I have no complaints. My friend has a Lexus, and using the touchpad to like find everything is obviously a little bit more difficult. iDrive has broken on me a few times in terms of like my phone wouldn't connect or the connection would drop. Typical thing. So I mostly now just use the wire. I don't use Bluetooth to connect. I feel like the car gets a little glitchy like that, but using the wire has helped with that. I feel like the worst thing that has happened is just me unplugging and plugging back my phone, and then the system just resets, which is great. Last thing I wanted to talk about on the interior was head position. You can see the seat is kind of lined up with the headrest, but when I first got the car, the headrest was all the way up. So every time I would sit back into the seat, I kind of be like hunched over. I have like a double chin, and I'm not gonna lie, I did not know that you could fix it. I thought that, oh, this is just the sportiness of the car. But one day I was just sitting and playing around with the headrest, and then I realized the button on the side makes it move forward and backwards, and the button on the bottom, which every car has, makes it go up to down. So I did not realize that. Once I fixed it, I'm like, this is great. I can lean back, my head is straight. Yeah, if you didn't know, now you know. All right, how has driving the car been? So as I said, I mostly use it as a daily driver and just locally, going to and from the tennis court, my friend's house. Not too many highway miles, except for the occasional road trip. Locally, when you first turn on the car, I mentioned this in my other videos, the RPM is a little jerky, but after the first 2 minutes, it kind of settles out. When you do like enough research, you'll see a lot of people say the same thing, that the transmission is a little jerky. Especially on local, you can feel it the most. But on highways like this, you know, the car is just cruising, and it hasn't been too bad for me. The only bad thing I would say is when you're cruising on a highway and you're going like 50 miles an hour or something, right? You slow down to 40. The car is like in 5th, 6th gear. I would really prefer for the car to just stay in gear. But being that this, I guess the tuning of it, it's always hunting for the best gear to be in. And I would say like in sport mode, obviously that's fine. But in comfort or eco, I don't really need that aggressiveness, because then if I'm on the highway, I brake like 50 to 40, it downshifts, and then I go again, it gets like really jerky. And there's just no point of that. There's no need for that. So that's one complaint I do have about the ZF8. But other than that, I've had no problems with it, and I've had no issues with it. When you come from a slow car, pushing the throttle and putting it in sport and having that speed and torque is obviously really fast. I think this car is listed like 380 horsepower. So what is that, like 320 wheel, 350 wheel, something like that. Someone do the math. But after that first like 6 months, or even the first 2 months, if I'm gonna be honest, you pretty much get used to it. The car is only real torquey from first gear, obviously, and I put it in sport, did like a 40 roll, 40 to 70, you know, speed limit, private closed course, of course, and the car did not really feel fast to me. Then again, I've never like pedal to the metal, slam the throttle to the floor. I feel like there's never a need for that. But I just feel like that threw me off a little bit, because I always see people posting pictures of their rolling shots, hearing a little bit of the exhaust. So kind of threw me off, but I feel like it's fine coming from a 180 horsepower Accord CVT. You know, this is a big upgrade. So just a small note. One thing I forgot to talk about was gas mileage. Now, I think the advertised combined is like 26, 25, 26, but I'm at 23.9, just below that. You know, I do a lot of local driving, not too much on the highway, and I found that you obviously get, you know, a little bit lower doing local. But the biggest thing that I failed to take into consideration when I was purchasing the car is that a bigger car like an SUV is obviously not going to be as aerodynamic as a sedan. So when I was doing my research, I was watching a lot of M340 videos, and these guys were getting like 50 miles per gallon on the highway when they were obviously going like 50, 60. But when you jump it up to 70, they're still getting like 40 miles per gallon, even though the advertised was only like mid-30s. So I took that into, no, I'm exiting, too much traffic. So I took that into my consideration, even though I knew I was gonna get the X3, because I was like, oh, the B58 is pretty efficient and not really the car itself. And it's not really a factor of the car, it's more of the engine. And while that is true, I was thinking about it from a sedan perspective. So switching over to an SUV, I obviously don't get that. I get like low 30s at the best when I'm cruising at highway speed. This, you can't really tell. So we're headed up a slope, so a little bit more difficult. But I usually get like low 30s if I'm cruising, and my mileage will go up a little bit, or my miles per gallon will go up a little bit. Here, let's see if we can try it right now. So if I'm maintaining 52, yeah, it's like low 30s. You saw it there for a bit. Mid 30s, low 40s at the best, versus M340s are getting an average of mid 30. So that means their highway cruising mileage is a lot higher than that. They're probably getting like mid 40s, and included with the local, they're getting mid 30s. Next thing I wanted to discuss is the problems with the car. So on July 4th, took a little vacation, went away for a week, came back, and this was the week in New York where it was super humid. And since I wasn't there, I guess, to drive the car, the humidity got stuck in the car a little bit. And when I came back and turned on the car, my passenger like service light was on. And this is something to do with a sensor in the seat, where if too much humidity or water gets into the sensor, it will just say it failed. There's no way to reset it without the app or something. The MHD, Bimmer link, Bimmer coding, or just go to a mechanic and have them clear it. It didn't affect the driving of my car or put me in limp mode. I know some like safety errors do that to the vehicle, but did not do anything. And I had friends still continue to sit in the passenger seat, and we continue as if everything was normal. I think this is just like a sensor in the seat to see if there's a passenger sitting in it. I didn't really diagnose it too far. I cleared the code and it didn't come back. But when I had a passenger sitting there, like you can see at the top, the airbag notification is on or is off because no one's in there. But when a passenger sat in there, it worked fine. So at the same time, the sensor was saying it was broken, but everything in the car still functioned normally. So who knows if it was truly broken or if it was just like a water sensor going off. It felt that humidity. But just so you guys know, I think if if you ever get that code, just clear it and you should be fine. Biggest problem I've had though was this start-stop system. So the car was made in June 2019, so it's coming up on like 5 years or so. So I was commuting to work and I was driving on the Cross Bronx, and on highways, especially in stop and go traffic like that, I kept the start stop on. The car stopped, engine shut off, fine. I let go of the brake and the car didn't turn back on. It said error. I had an 18-wheeler behind me. I was like, what do you mean error? Your car just shut off. Waited 5 seconds, pressed the start button again, and then turned back on. So we're fine. But I think my battery is dying out, and that's the issue. Sometimes when I'm startup, it would take like multiple attempts. I would press start, car wouldn't start, and then I would let go of the brake, press the brake again, car would start up just fine. So I think my battery's dying a little bit. So when I go do my stage 2 tune and installation, everything like that, I'll probably have to hook up the battery to a battery maintainer. I know like some influencers like Doubt40, he bricked his DME by not hooking up to a maintainer, even though his car was like had battery. So that's always a scary thought. Make sure you keep that in mind when you're doing anything like that. And the last thing I wanted to say, like the speakers, speak about the speakers. These are just the premium ones, so there's not even HK. Coming from a Honda, again, they sound fine, but you could hear where it's slacking a little bit. I don't really have any complaints because I'm not going to spend $1,000 to add like an amp or go with what is it, like Alpha Bimmer 1 Alpha system or something, and spend like more than that to add the tweeters, the subwoofer, and the amp. I think maybe down the line just the amp will be fine for me at least. Not an audiophile or anything, so I don't really need the most crisp audio. But I know some people, they do like that. Your money. I would rather put my money on like a nice vacation somewhere, go travel, go see the world, you know. So let's move on to the likes and dislikes. Likes on this car is pretty simple. It's very usable as a daily driver. Lowering the car, I put the seat at the lowest position just because, you know, I miss the sedan life, and I feel like this is fine. When I get in sedans now, I feel a little weird because it's so low. Loading up, you know, tennis equipment into the trunk, throwing it all in, not thinking about it is great. In my Accord, I had to organize everything super neatly, stack everything, play around with it, like fit it like puzzle pieces pretty much. Why we stop, man? There's nobody there. So I had to organize it like a puzzle piece. But with an SUV in this trunk, I can just throw everything in. It's great. Took a little road trip to the Poconos with a few friends. I had 5 people in the car. No complaints from the passengers. Everyone said it was super smooth. I like to think it's part of my driving too, you know what I'm saying? But no complaints. This was on lowering springs and run flats. Went over a few bumps on the turnpike, Pocono back roads, and the car was fine. Fit everything in the trunk. Again, not too many things though. So I feel like there's really no complaints for me to talk about, except for the few like inconveniences that I've ran into. The only thing that I want to say is I wish it had a little bit more of the sportiness and handling. But I understand this is just an M40. It's not an X3M. Maybe if I went to the full M, I would have got that. But I just miss that sometimes. And some days I wish I had like the M340 and being back in that sedan. So that's just me. But when I think about throwing all those people and tennis equipment into a sedan, I'm like, okay, SUV is better, you know? It fits my needs for now. You know, down the line, I plan on keeping this car for like 5 years or so. Before upgrading, before buying another. I feel like that should be the financially responsible thing for me to do. Plan on keeping this for a while, and until I get like some more money, a new job, maybe some, like, I feel like this would be a great family car anyways. My next car would be a sporty one just for me. So I feel like this would fit a majority of people's needs over the the next 5-10 years. A lot of like young fathers say this is a great family car, throwing their kid in the back and not having too many issues there. So I think that is great as well. Now, another thing I like is the reliability and maintenance of this vehicle. So I've only done an oil change at 35,000. Other than that, it's been fine. I went to a Euro shop. They didn't charge me too much. I brought my own oil, doing the FCP, like ECS tuning program. Okay, buddy. Yeah, take your time. So doing those programs set me up for like some oil changes. So we'll be fine there. And the car has not broken down, you know? Run flats, no flat tire. That's great. Haven't hit a curb. There's really not too much I could think of where I have to like make a big complaint. I think next up for me is like after I tune, I'll probably do spark plugs and transmission and diff flush a little bit earlier at like 45,000. So I still got some time, but nothing too much to do after that. Right now, I'm just cruising and chilling, putting on these miles on the car. I don't really care too much. I'm not worried about like the mileage and keeping its value. I feel like you have a car, you should drive it. So don't be that guy. Don't be that guy, especially like a X3, you know? There's no reason to save miles on this. All right, as I mentioned before, the next mods are downpipe and tune. Typical. I have a cold air intake in the mail as well. Everything's from MAD, Mastery Art and Design. They're a new company, but everything looks pretty solid. I read like all their reviews, looks good. I think some fitment issues and quality control issues, but other than that, I feel like they use the same material and the same things as all the other big brands, but it's much cheaper. So there's that. And for my life right now, this is great. Coming out of college, being able to do these modifications to the car, being able to have a car, really have no complaints. Truly grateful for everything here, for everyone that's helped me along the way. That's it. You can see the clock. We've arrived. BM coding. Let's get this DME unlocked. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you guys have any questions or comments, throw it down below. DM me on Instagram. Always like hearing from you guys. All right. So, truly appreciate it. Thank you all. See you next time. Peace.